I You are once again welcome, and welcome to this program in continuation of the topic IBERIBED BIAFRANS suffering from BIAFRAN IBERIBENESS, and this is the part 6 of the same topic. And in this part 6, the subheading is Generational IBERIBED BIAFRANS suffering from Generational BIAFRAN IBERIBENESS. You are highly welcome. I remain your humble servant, Evangelist Collins Inyima, bringing you greeting in the name of the Lord of the universe, Jesus Christ, and from Valencia City, my base. This is 9 minutes after 11 p.m. 9 minutes after 11 p.m. From Valencia City, I say good night. Good morning to those that are already in their morning. Morning. Good afternoon, good evening to those according to your locations and according to your time zones, and depending on where and when you will be listening to this video. So it may be morning as at then, it may be night, it may be evening, it may be afternoon as well. May God bless you all. Thank you for giving attention to this important lesson. It is about keeping up with learning. Learning for reorientation, learning for personal and general sensitization. I am concerned about the well-being of all humanity, and this is the reason I make up my time to research on how human beings should think properly and correcting human beings in diverse ways, and most especially the biblical way, because the Bible is the perfect principles of guiding human thoughts. If the human beings are willing to follow the Bible principles without arrogance, without pride, without selfish interest. And that is the purpose of God for humanity. But humanity refuses God, rejects His commandment, and begin to live on their own. And that is the reason most of the result we get for everything is as a personal cost or environmental cost results, because we have abandoned God. However, we continue to learn. But this is about social teaching about reasoning, and you know what it is about. Having listened from part 1 to part 5, you know what it is about. It is about psychological education, realizing that most people, the majority of humanity, are stupid, thinking improperly. Stupidity is a product of improper reasoning, and the majority of humanity are stupid in one way or the other. Some people, there are stupid millionaires, stupid billionaires, educated fools. There are fools of all levels in different ways, but there are those whose stupidity are far more intensified than others. And according to this program, I am specific, and I emphasize on the stupidity of we the Biafrans, where I hail from, to this earth, using us as cases example relating to all other humanity, and most especially the Africans, who are more stupid than all other human beings that exist on earth, according to their various races, according to their various ethnicities and locations. May God Almighty be blessed, because we are alive this day once again. And today is Friday, the 26th of June 2020. While the time I started this video at 7 minutes past 11, now it is it is 11 minutes past 11 in the night of this day, Friday 26th of June 2020. As we know, it is all about Iberiberism and Iberibed BIAFRANS suffering from BIAFRAN IBERIBENESS. The kind of Iberibenesses suffered and some of them being manufactured by the BIAFRANS. So the Iberibeness is a term of combination of Igbo language and English, and the combination of Igbo language and English is called Ibongli. And according to Ibongli, it is Iberibeness or Nzuzupidity. Nzuzupidity, it means stupidity in English. Then, according to the terms, in Central Igbo, which is Igbo Nzube, stupidity is known as Iberibe and Nzuzu. In Ohafi Igbo, stupidity is known as Ime Izuma, Iberibe, and Nzuzu. Because in my Ohafi dialect, we call it Iberibe, we call it Nzuzu as regard to Central Igbo, which is Igbo Nzube. Then we have our own dialect word for it, which is Izuma. Stupid behavior is Ime Izuma. Then, when we say someone is an Izuma person, anyị gwa ha afịa mmadụ wee onye Izuma, ọ pụsibere ibe onye wee nwere ọgwụgwọ ụwa. Ọgwụle ma Chineke nyere onye aka agwọ ya, ma ọ wee nwe onye agwọri ya n'ụwa. What I'm saying is that when we the Hafia refer to someone as an Izuma person or Izumarized person, it means that the person is suffering from an irremediable Iberibeness, irremediable stupidity, irremediable Nzuzupidity. And unless God intervention, no other person, unless God's intervention, no human being on earth can cure the person, because there is no cure for such Iberibeness, for that level of Iberibeness. So according to English, Iberibeness is known as Stupiberibe or Stupinzuzu. Then according to Ohafingli, that is terming it from Ohafia dialect and blending it with English, which is Ohafingli. Iberibeness is known as Izumanization, Iberibeness or Nzuzupidity. Then in Ohafia, terming it from English and blending it with Ohafia dialect, Iberibeness is known as Stupizuma, Stupiberibe, and Stupinzuzu. Then in proper English, Iberibeness is stupidity, which is the most famous among all other terms according to this lesson, and all other terms are all over the earth, because English is the world dominant language, and stupidity is an English word, and that makes it more famous and dominant over all other terms from different languages and dialects. Then in Spanish, Iberibeness is known as tonteria. In Spanish language, according to the Spaniards, the Spain indigenes, Spanish is called Espanol. Though inside the Espanol they have their dialects, inside the Espanol you have Catalan, you have Valenciano, you have Castellano, which is general Spanish that each Spain person can understand, and even with the foreigner, that is the kind of Spanish we speak, Castellano. And the same Castellano is a global Spanish language, which is spoken by the Latin Americans as well. But inside this, when they have their various indigenous Spanish languages, like in Valencia here they speak Valenciano, In Barcelona area, they speak Catalan. Then in Madrid area, um, um, Madrid have their own dialect, of which I cannot actually remember now what the name of the dialects. Castilla de la Mancha. Castilla de la Mancha. Then, that is, in proper Spanish, it is Iberibenes is known as Tonteria. Then, in Ingleñol, giving it terminology, giving a terming Iberibenes from English and blending it with Spanish, it is Ingleñol. Then, according to Ingleñol, Iberibenes is known as Stupiteria. Then, in Español, terming it from Spanish and blending it with English, Iberibenes is known as tontopidity. The objectives, which is the three objectives, bringing to realization that Biafrans really suffer from various kinds of Iberibenes, which is stupidity in English. Disclosing diverse kinds of Iberibed, backsplash, stupid Biafrans, and diverse kinds of Iberibenes, backsplash, stupidity, warning them. Endeavoring to cure all sorts of Iberibed, backsplash, stupid Biafrans by providing them oral and other forms of psychological remedies. Then, according to kinds of Biafran Iberibenes and the kinds of Iberibed Biafrans suffering them. Fulani, the first one is Fulani subjugated Iberibed Biafrans suffering from Fulani self-subjugation Biafran Iberibenes, and that is the subtopic for part 1. Then the second one is misleadership Biafran Iberibenes. That is misleadership Iberibed Biafrans suffering from misleadership Biafran Iberibenes, and that is the subtopic for the part 2. The third kind is Christianity and Christians mishandling Biafran Iberibenes. Suffered by Christianity and Christians mishandlers Iberibed Biafrans. The fourth one is Biafran criticism Iberibenes suffered by critically Iberibed Biafrans. The fifth one is politicized Biafran Iberibenes suffered by politicized Iberibed Biafrans. The seventh one is generational Biafran Iberibenes. The sixth one is generational Biafran Iberibenes, which is the subtopic for this particular video. This is part 6. Generational Biafran Iberibenes suffering from generational, that is a generational Biafran Iberibenes suffered by generational Iberibed Biafran. While the seventh one will be Bible mishandlers Iberibed Biafran suffering from Bible mishandling Biafran Iberibenes. So without further delay, I will just begin immediately. The first set of people, the first set of Biafrans suffering from generational Biafran Iberibenes are the modern day Biafrans who believe that Biafranizing polygamy is a countermeasure to solving polygamous Fulani multiplication and domination in Biafra land. There are Biafrans who believe that to solve Fulanization in Biafra land, that is this, to solve the dominantly the dominant domination, Fulani domination, and the Fulani quick multiplication as a result of their polygamous lifestyle. Some Biafrans had begun to campaign according to their reason, according to their suggestions, according to their myopic understanding, according to their IBERIBED rationality, believe that the countermeasure which the Biafra should apply to compete with the Fulanis in multiplication is for us to engulf ourselves into polygamy. While the reason the Fulanis are very dominant not only over Biafrans but over all the supposedly nigger area people, which are the Biafrans, the Oduduwas, and other Ariwas. And the reason the Fulanis are dominant is not because of their polygamy lifestyle, but it is because of their feudalism, that is their feudal style terrorism, by hijacking the military power, hijacking the national political power, hijacking even the national lawsuits, then hijacking even religions, hijacking both Islam in Nigeria and the colonial Christianity, hijacking police, and hijacking even traditional rulership, subjecting all the people in authority to their own selfish will. So that is what is happening. And such Biafrans who cannot reason properly on what we should do to liberate ourselves from this Fulanization and begin to reason and begin to campaign in their ignorance, in their ambiguity, in their perplexity, and in their poor rationality, begin to campaign that we should compete with Fulani in polygamy, that we should engulf ourselves in polygamy as a countermeasure to Fulani quick multiplication in Biafra land and their dominance in Biafra land. So such Biafrans who do as such are suffering from generational polygamy mismanagement, Biafran Iberibenes. They don't know how to manage polygamy. That is the reason they suggest thoughts. From the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And from their comments, realize that they have erroneous knowledge, wrong knowledge on how to tackle polygamy and how to tackle people invasion over the Biafrans. Because one of the reasons is that we Biafrans have been defenseless all those while, and they continue to penetrate until now. So such Biafrans are suffering from generational polygamy. Why it is generational polygamy is because most people who talk about this polygamy refer it as our ancestral culture. But that ancestral culture has done us more harm than good. So that is the reason it is not needful. It is an ancestral error of which we should not continue. And what will make us different as modern day Biafrans is to discover the ancestral errors, then discover the damages it has been causing among us, then we learn to avoid it. our ancestors made the mistake, that we may learn from their mistake and take advantage of their mistakes to correct ourselves. It will be a shame even our ancestors will be more intelligent than we of this modern day, modern era, if we, after having knowing the ancestral mistakes that led to Biafran and African setback, and after having realizing it, and as I've been revealing the negative consequences, we finally go back and continue with the ancestral erroneous tradition, cultures that bring setback, that did not bring development, but brought setback, underdevelopment, setback thoughts, enmities of different kinds, antagonism, envy, and jealousy. So they are suffering, as I've said, generational polygamy, mismanagement, BIAFRAN IBERIBENESS. They are therefore modernized mismanagers and mismanageresses of polygamy, IBERIBED, BIAFRANS, and their remedy is receiving power of self-determination sensitization. What we, the Biafran, need is self-determination, and those who do not know should be properly sensitized. That is the pill they need to be healed from generational polygamy, mismanagement, BIAFRAN IBERIBENESS. So to learn more about, for those who have not listened to my YouTube video, which is titled Polygamy and Its Problem, Part 1 and 2. And by God's grace, before next month will run out, I will find my time to make a research. Then I will teach on Part 3 of polygamy and its problems before next month runs out, by God's grace. After completing the 7th part of this lesson, maybe I will have 1 or 2 more lessons before this month runs out. Then I would spend my 2 weeks in other things, then come back. I'll spend my first 2 weeks of the new month, July, for that other things very reasonable. Then I will come back to making video by the grace of God, and that is when I will make the video teaching about the part 3 of polygamy and its problems from points of reality. For those who have not listened to the part 1 and part 2 of the same, polygamy and its problems from points of reality, you should endeavor to do so. And those who have once listened to them but have forgotten most of the content will also endeavor to review, so that the memory will be consistently refreshed, and it will be a reason to impart others with the content of the lesson, because it is not only made for you to listen and keep quiet. It is made that you may listen and impart others with the content of this lesson, even when the video is not available with you, because when you listen and re-listen it, then it becomes a component, a content in your medulla oblongata, of which at least you can share with people, teaching 50% to 60% of the content of the video, even without the video. The second set of IBERIBED BIAFRANS, the second set of generational IBERIBED BIAFRANS suffering from Biafran generational IBERIBENESS are the Biafrans who struggle to defend Biafran and African ancestral errors when they should learn from our ancestral errors to correct the lives of Biafrans and Africans of today. Such, okay, I repeat, the second set of Iberibed, a generational Iberibed Biafran suffering from generational Biafran Iberibeness are the Biafrans who struggle to defend Biafran and African ancestral errors, of which I will not begin to mention one by one: slave trading, polygamizing, witchcrafting, human sacrificing in the name of culture, throwing newborn babies in the river, killing twins, things like that. Also casting nonsense, Iberibenes, Biafra Limited. So these are just examples. So the Biafrans who struggle to defend Biafran and African ancestral errors, when they should learn from our ancestral errors to correct the lives of the modern day Biafrans and Africans, they are suffering from generational errors sustenance Biafran Iberibenes. They are suffering from generational errors sustenance Biafran Iberibenes. They are therefore generational errors sustenance Iberibed Biafrans. They are therefore generational errors sustenance Iberibed Biafrans. And the remedy is sensitization for liberation from dynastic sentiments. That is the remedy. Sensitization for liberation from dynastic sentiments. That is the medicine, the psychological, the oral psychological pills, syrups, injection, better than colonial vaccination. And not, this is not colonial vaccination, but real vaccination for regulation of the fundamental component of the medulla oblongata. The third set of Biafrans who suffer from generational Biafran Iberibenes. They are the Biafrans who have ancestral Igbo origin, Igbo personal and Igbo surname, yet claim they are not Igbos. The Biafrans who have ancestral Igbo origin, Igbo personal name, and Igbo surname, yet such Biafrans claim they are not Igbo. They are suffering from psychological defects known as generational self-identity despisement Biafran Iberibenes. They are suffering from unrealized generational self-identity despisement Biafran Iberibenes. As they do so, they do not know that they are exhibiting their ishumanization, their Iberibenes, their insupidity, their Izumiberibe, and the insupidity, insupidity, and the Insumiberibenes. They don't know that are suffering from, okay, these are the Igbo ones, suffering from tontopidity, stupitonto, stupiteria, So while doing so, they don't realize that they are despising their real identity and continue to stupefy themselves. And without people telling them that they are sick, they are psychologically sick, they may not realize it until thy kingdom come. So that is the reason I have made it an obligation, taking the responsibility upon my shoulder, paying the price, striving to acquire this knowledge and to inculcate to modern day Biafrans, our present generation, and we are getting older day after day. What about the younger generation? Who will let them know if we do not do the needful today? So this is educational product for the present and the succeeding generation. So while the succeeding generation learn to correct themselves, they will also take advantage of the knowledge they have acquired, begin to sensitize, begin to reorient their children from home, from school, from anywhere, from wherever they are, and we continue to keep this, we continue to document this kind of intelligent words, documenting it, educating our children, so that even in their academic education ground, they will be difficult to be deceived because they have already known the truth. So anybody will find it very difficult to deceive them in any form, just as most of us we are deceived, and we began to come back to our senses. So while the Biafrans who have ancestral Igbo origin, having Igbo personal names, having Igbo surnames, yet claim they are not Igbos, they never realize that they are suffering, they never realize that they are despising their real identity, and as a result, they are suffering from unrealized generational self-identity despisement, Biafran Iberibenes, and they are generational unrealized despisers of self-identity, Iberibed Biafrans. Their remedy is sensitization for sense of value. That is their remedy, sensitization for sense of value. Because when they deny their real identity, they don't know that they also devaluate themselves completely, making themselves of people of no actual history. So it is as a result of, and doing so is a way of ignorantly exhibiting lack of sense of value. So we are to sensitize them as we have begun to do, sensitizing them regularly, anytime, any day, and when forgotten, come back to this video. And this is the reason of making all this video, making them to keep, and it continue to remain. So whenever, anytime, then you recommend them to such videos, then they will begin to learn for themselves. After learning for themselves, then they will still continue to dispatch the knowledge which they have acquired by trying to sensitizing others. And as we continue like this, between now and the next 10 years, I believe me that Biafrans will compete in the world as the people who produce majority of more intelligent people on earth. Just believe me, between now and the next 10 years, if we do not relent, if we are consistent as we have decided to be. So then the first set of people suffering from generational Biafran Iberibenes are the Biafran ancestors who initiated indigenous Biafran slave trade. The Biafran ancestors who initiated indigenous Biafran slave trade. The Biafran ancestors who began to to sell their fellow Biafrans, their children, their nieces, their cousins, their uncles, selling them into slavery. These are the forces of Biafrans suffering from generational Biafran Iberibenes, and the kind of generational Biafran Iberibenes they suffered are they are suffering from generational self-bastardization Biafran Iberibenes. They were bastardizing Biafrans without realizing it, and just because of the money they used to get from the slave trade. So they suffered from they bastardized the Biafran generations. Most of the things affecting us today can be traced. Some of the things affecting with the recent generations of Biafrans can be traced to the days of slave trade, which was executed by the majority of our ancestors. So they suffered, those Biafran ancestors who initiated indigenous Biafran slave trade suffered from generational self-bastardization Biafran Iberibenes. They are, or they were, then they also they were generational self-bastardized Iberibed ancestral Biafrans. And the remedy is Biafranized sensitization of indigenous people's value. Sensitizing them. This is what they needed. And don't forget that we, the present generations of Biafra, will sometime in the future, after 1 century from now, will be regarded as fathers and forefathers and ancestors, according to, depending on our age differences, those that have died between the 20th century and those that are up to 70s and 70 years and above, they will become the ancestors, Biafran ancestors. In the next 100 years from now, they will become the part of the other ancestors. So we are to learn so that we will not continue to repeat the same mistakes our ancestors made, the same mistake they did. So we will not continue to repeat it, as it is ongoing in our land today. Some people do not care, and even some modern day Biafrans have done worse than our ancestors, whom we blame. I mean, we who realized that they did wrong. It is not about those who are sentimental, knowing that quite well that our ancestors did wrong, but continue to justify them, trying to justify them, and passing the same information, encouraging the modern day Biafrans to do likewise our selfish and greedy ancestors. I don't mean that all Biafran ancestors were bad, that they were evil or they were good. What I mean is that there were evil ancestors among all the Biafran ancestors. So when I'm talking about the evil ones among them. I'm not talking about all of the Biafran ancestors. Like as I've said, we'll become some people's fathers. Most of us are people's fathers. Then we'll become some people's forefathers between the next 100 years. And it is undeniable that even among our generations, there are evil Biafrans among our generation, the traitors, the very selfish ones, the mean ones, the occultists who cause societal upheavals among Biafrans, then the corrupt politicians. All these people are evil. It is undeniable, and it will make no sense when the younger generation or the futuristic generation, those that will be born in the next 80, from the next 80 years and upward, if Jesus Christ have not come to take over his earth, then those who will be born from then will begin to try to justify all of the corrupt modern day Biafrans, it makes no sense. We are to be rationalistic. There we are very good Biafran ancestors, and there were the evil ones among them. So we will always condemn evil. Condemning ancestral evil does not mean condemning all of Biafran ancestors, and it does not even mean condemning the ancestors, but it just means condemning their evil. What we want to destroy is the evil and not our ancestors themselves. I don't know how most of us reason so myopically. When should we begin to be outrightly outrightly frankly to ourselves? This is what we should begin to do to advance as civilized people. Civilization begins from the people being truthful, being frankly to themselves first, before being frankly to others. When we say evil, we call it evil. I don't mean we should go and begin to dig their grave and looking for their corpse to throw away. This is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that the evil some of them have committed in the past, we should call it evil and nothing less than evil. And calling it evil is that we are tired of it and we should not continue with a recent generation. Then, if some of us decide to justify the Biafran ancestors who were evil, we should also justify the modern day Biafrans who are evils. Who are evils, not only evil, they are evils. Plurality of evil. Then we should also justify them. If we are to justify the ancestral Biafran, the Biafran ancestors who were evil, we should also justify the modern day Biafrans who are evil. Because if we fail to do so, it means that we who try to justify the Biafran ancestors, the evil Biafran ancestors, and condemn the modern day Biafran generation, the evil Biafran generation, it means that we are too sentiment, and we who try to do so, we are more stupid than the evil ancestors, the stupid ancestors, and we are more stupid than the modern day evil and stupid Biafrans. If we realize their stupidity and begin to play politics and sentiment over it, we are more stupid than them. So we should not be stupid. Then if we who believe to be intelligent, who believe to be diligent, wise and prudent, begin to behave ourselves, begin to reason below the people we are to correct, then there is no need doing what we are doing. It is better we hang chains upon our neck and hand ourselves over to them, because they will have superior reason than us. So we should try to kill sentiment, no matter who commit the crime. We are not talking about condemning the person, but condemning the person's evil and save the person's soul. So they are suffering from the Biafran ancestors who initiated indigenous Biafran slave trade, suffered from generational self-bastardization, Biafran Iberibenes, and they we are about, therefore, generational self-bastardized ancestral Iberibed Biafrans. And the remedy is Biafranized sensitization of indigenous people's value. Then the fifth set of Biafrans suffering from generational Biafran Iberibenes are the Biafrans who blame indigenous Biafran slave trade on Fulani ancestors. The modern day Biafrans who blame indigenous Biafran slave trade on Fulani ancestors, who advised Biafran ancestors to sell their fellow Biafrans into slavery. There are modern day Biafrans who try to justify our Biafran ancestors by claiming that it wasn't their fault, and if people are to be blamed, it should be the Fulanis of their time who advised them to sell their own indigenous Biafrans into slavery, while the Fulanis, who advised them to do thus, protected their own people and did not sell their own people. So if we are to be frankly to ourselves, it means that the ancestral Fulanis who gave that advice to our ancestors were intelligent, and those ancestors who complied to that advice were more foolish than foolishness. They were more stupid than stupidity. They were more nzuzu than nzuzupidity. They were more iberibe than iberibeness, and they were more tonto than tonteria. So how will it be explained? Why did they accept that advice? Then, if they were intelligent, after giving them that advice, they will also say, okay, the Fulanis, okay, we have heard your advice. Okay, let us, I want to watch you sell your own people. At least try it for 50 years. Let us see how it will work. Then we will begin to consider whether we will follow suit or we will not. But as a result of their myopic, as a result of their low mentality, which they have transferred to this modern day generational Iberibe Biafran, and I'm beginning to suspect that those modern day Biafrans who try to justify them they are from the families who participated in the slave trade. I'm beginning to suspect, and something is telling me word now, and I believe it is the Holy Spirit telling me the word. I'm suspecting that they are part and parcel of those Biafran selfish, stupid, Iberibe, Nzumanizationalized, Iberibenized, Iberibed, stupidized, Nzuzurized, ancestral Biafrans. So the Biafran ancestors who accepted the Fulani's advice of their time to sell their fellow Biafrans into slavery, they are more stupid than stupidity itself. And the modern day Biafrans who try to justify them that it is not their fault, then whose fault it is? If I happen to meet with them and anything happens, I will even celebrate the Fulanis who gave them the advice, because the Fulanis are intelligent, and the Biafran ancestors who accepted their advice were. That is how will even I don't know the kind of English or the kind of Inglignol or Ibonyol or Ibonastic or Hafianizational English that I will use to qualify to describe the magnitude of the stupidity of the Biafran ancestors who stupidly, Iberibenizedly, Nsusurizedly, tontopidically accepted the Fulanized, Biafranized, ancestral, generational stupidity, Iberibeness, Nsusurization, Ishumanipidity from the Fulanis, passing the same to their younger generation. I'm beginning to suspect that the modern day Biafran generation who tried to justify those Biafran ancestors who accepted the nonsensical advice from the Fulanis to sell their fellow Biafrans, they have blood lineage with such ancestors. I'm beginning to suspect. Holy Spirit is telling me a word. So both the modern day Biafrans, the modern day and the Biafran ancestors who did so are suffering from a kind of stupidity, Biafran stupidity, known as they are suffering from generational self-destructive protegens Biafran Iberibenes. I repeat, they are suffering from both the ancestors who did so and the modern day generational Iberibe Biafrans who support them are suffering from generational self-destructive protegens Biafran Iberibenes. They are therefore self-destructive proteges IBERIBED Biafrans, and the remedy is sensitization for self-determination. Self-determination is not only on political area, it is also psychological area. There are many ways where the Biafrans need self-determination. With somebody, anybody can give any advice, and every advice received is meant for a purpose or purposes. Then it is your duty whether to accept the advice or not. And sometimes someone can give you advice, you say, okay, I have heard you, let me go and think on what to do about it. Then you go and reason. If the advice is of benefit, you accept it. If it is of no benefit, you reject the advice. And this is an example of self-determination. After people having given you any kind of advice, then you go and decide whether you should take the advice or not. Even when the advice is right, you may decide to reject it, knowing quite well that it's right. But sometimes, for the purpose of exhibiting your self-determination, I'm just teaching you, I'm giving you psychological healing, psychological strength. And when you reason like this, you become so powerful. You become a revolutionary thinker. What are you doing, my fellow modern day generation? Why do you want to stupefy yourself like Biafran, some of the Biafran ancestors who were more stupid than stupidity? There are Biafran ancestors I will celebrate, I will continue to celebrate, continue to, even our generation should celebrate them forever. But there are the fools among them who do not even deserve our cup of water. What are you telling me? Are you more stupid than stupidity? May God have mercy on you. So they are suffering from, okay, I've concluded. Their remedy is sensitization for self-determination. Sensitization for self-determination. Then the sixth set of people, how many do I have on this? Plus 6. Okay, I have 9. The sixth set of IBERIBED Biafrans suffering from generational Biafran Iberibeness are the Biafrans who cannot discern low mentality of the Biafran ancestors who sold their own children and other Biafrans as slaves, while they are now designing Biafrans, while the nowadays Biafrans try to justify the Biafran ancestors who participated in the slave trade. The modern day Biafrans who cannot discern low mentality of the Biafran ancestors who sold their own children and other Biafrans as slaves, while the modern day Biafrans the modern day Biafrans are now trying to justify the Biafran slave trade ancestors. They are suffering from generational low mentality justification Biafran Iberibeness. They are suffering from generational low mentality sourced self-justification Biafran Iberibeness. They are therefore Biafran generational low mentality justifiers IBERIBED Biafrans. They are generational low mentality justifiers IBERIBED Biafrans, like ancestors, like low mentally ancestors, like low mentally modern day Biafrans. So I'm not part of those who were too myopic, who were too selfish, who were too greedy, the money mongers, whom because of the money offered to them began to sell their own people. And the modern days Biafrans who try to justify them are no different. They are no different. Even though you are campaigning against modern day slave trade over Biafrans, you are no different from the Biafran ancestors who did the same. If you justify the Biafran ancestors, you should also justify your governors, your politicians, all your fellow Biafrans who are trading all of us into slavery. You should also justify them if you can justify the Biafran ancestors. And if you fail to do so, you are lower than sentimentality itself. And the hypocrite, in short, you are not supposed to be wearing cloth anymore. You are supposed to be wearing hypocrisy as a garment, because you are not even you are lower than hypocrisy itself. So if anybody call you a hypocrite while you do so, the person loves you so much because you worth less than hypocrisy. And your remedy is liberation from generational sentiments. Liberation from generational sentiments. And that is the reason I'm using this harsh word, because it's just like nailing hitting nail into some wood. So it is not something you use bare hands or use some soft plastic. It needs hammer. So the harsh word I'm using here is a hammer to nail the pills, the pill of deliverance, the pill of liberation, the pills of liberation from generational sentiments. That is the harsh word. The harsh word is the hammer, while the word, the word, the pills are the pills are the nails, while the harsh word are the hammer, hammering it into your medulla oblongata so that you quickly have a rethink. And if you fail to have a rethink, it means that you are Izumakona, whose Iberibeness is incurable. You are suffering from irremediable Biafran Iberibeness, which is known as Izumanization, and that makes you an Izumakona Biafran. The seven set of people, the seven set of Biafrans suffering from generational Biafran Iberibeness are the Biafrans who are persistent to promoting Biafran ancestral cultural selfishness. The modern day Biafrans who are persistent to promoting Biafran ancestral cultural selfishness. They are suffering from the kind of Iberibeness known as generational blind cultures. They are suffering from the Biafran Iberibeness known as generational blind culture promotion Biafran Iberibeness, and that makes them generational blind culture promoters Iberibed Biafrans. And the remedy is deliverance from Biafran generational cultural selfishness. And this deliverance, it can be by prayer, intercessory prayer of casting out demons, because this one is demonic. It is not just ordinary. We'll continue to sensitize them. Then while we sensitize them, we'll also pray for them. While we sensitize them, we also pray for them for casting out the demons of selfish culture practiced by Biafran ancestors, sustained and celebrated by the modern day Biafrans, like Osu casting satanic nonsensity, like throwing newborn babies into river for scrutinization, while the Queen of the Coast will continue to herself and her emissary continue to drink blood, and they have blood bank into the river, when 20 children are thrown, maybe they will say about 10 or about 8 are not to indigenous people, then they will drown. Nobody will see them again. They begin to continue to bank their blood. And you know there is a great difference between human sacrifice and baby sacrifice. Baby sacrifice is more effective than human sacrifice because the adults have been adults have been defiled. Most adults have been defiled even before they were sacrificed to any idol. But the babies are completely innocent and all of their fortune are still intact, have not been tapped by anybody. So when babies are sacrificed, their fortunes, their talents are still complete. They have not accomplished any, they have not wasted any of their semen or any of their ovum in fornication or in sex of all sorts, of which most adults have been into this lifestyle either by marriage or by just erotic love in different ways. Adults are corruption by smoking, corruption by thievery, corruption in diverse unimaginable ways. So baby sacrifice is more effective than human sacrifice. Baby sacrifice and human sacrifice. The people I refer as human as the adults, but the one I babies, I know all of them are humans. The babies is the peculiarity. These are completely intact destinies, stars, futures, fortune, everything they have to be in life. All that God has deposited in them, endowed them with, are still intact, and the demon will collect them. The demons will collect them and they harvest it. They continue to prosper spiritually, and it is from that source they enrich their occultic members. When people engage into occult, that is the sacrifice, the manipulated talent of the people they have sacrificed is what they use to transfer into wealth. And transferring it into wealth does not really mean that it becomes aeroplane or so. It is something they use diabolically. They hijack other people's fortune. When they engage, is it into business or anything, they continue to prosper while holding other people down because of the black powers. Though it does not work on everybody, like by God's grace, real Christians who are prayerful, it doesn't work against them. And even if it works against them, they break the yoke. Even if it works, they break the yoke. And once they realize they become prayer warriors. They begin to engage in battle against the kingdom of darkness and angels of darkness of all levels. That is the reason we are told that we battle not against flesh and blood. Flesh and blood means human beings, but principalities and powers. There are principalities, spiritual wickedness, the kind of demons ruling African territory. And unless Africans begin to call upon God, only God can save Africans. It is not for by arms of for by struggle shall no man prevail. So the Biafrans who are persistent to promoting Biafran ancestral cultural selfishness are suffering from generational blind culture promotion, Biafran Iberibenes, and that makes them generational blind cultures promoters, Iberibed Biafrans, and they need deliverance. That is the remedy they need. Deliverance from Biafran generational cultural selfishness. All those cultures were founded on selfishness. They were established for the selfish interest of its pioneer members, of which the succeeding generation were unaware about it. And as Africans we don't ask questions for anything. We believe that anything given to us by our parents or by our foreparents is mean well for us, and that is how how far our mentality, our reasoning have been reduced. So we don't even take, any person who say contrary, say anyone who says anything contrary of any kind of heritage we have gotten from our parents, become an enemy of the people, and that is our African reason. That is the reason. That is the reason we are stagnant. Psychologically, rationally, we are very most Africans are very stagnant. There's no progressive reasoning because they don't think otherwise, and most Africans just do things because that is what they were born into. They never at any time sit down to ask, why was this thing established in the first place, and why do we do it? Of what benefits are there? That is rationality. Most Africans are not rational. That is one of the major reasons we are suffering very immensely, as we never expected. And even when we realize the truth, we hate those who tell us the truth, and we hate the truth itself. We begin to fight the truth and fight those who proclaim the truth. That is the major aspect of an African person. The eighth set of Biafrans suffering from Biafran generational Iberibeness are the Biafrans who promote worship of Biafra land gods, quoting his advantage with a Yoruba land god that killed 34 Fulani cows but cannot kill Fulani terrorists who kill Yoruba indigenes. There are Biafrans, modern day Biafrans, who promote worship of Biafra land gods, because they say the worshiping of land gods is our ancestral heritage. It's the ancestral heritage, because I don't belong to that party anymore. They say worshiping of land gods, Biafra land gods, is ancestral heritage. Then if you say otherwise, they begin to give you instances why it is beneficial. And one of the instances they give, nonsensical, more than nonsensical instances they give, is that there is they give in an instance with a Yoruba land god that killed 34 Fulani cows but cannot kill Fulani terrorists who kill Yoruba indigenes, while Fulani terrorists were killing Yorubas. Yoruba land god is unable to kill even a single Fulani, and that Yoruba land god is maybe perhaps the people that serve it have not been feeding it all this while, and the land gods whose name I don't know was very hungry. He wanted to eat meat. That is the reason he went and killed Fulani cows, while leaving the Fulanis themselves, who are the cause of the problems, because he is powerless for killing the Fulani. The Yoruba land god is unable to kill the Fulanis, and the reason he killed the cows is because they have not been sacrificed, giving him animal sacrifices from where he is being fed. He was abandoned to be fed. That is the reason he went to kill cow rather than killing those who have been killing the Yorubas. So that land god is an incapable land god. And even if the Biafran land gods you are talking, who cannot even kill the Fulanis, neither even their cows, the Biafran land gods are even lower than the Yoruba land gods. But in all the case, none of them it is not wise to worship any of them. And the promoting the worship of land gods as Biafrans, you are suffering from the land gods who do not truly serve. You are suffering from what is known as, from psychological effects known as generational idolized self-justification, Biafran Iberibenes. And that makes you idolized, self-justified, Iberibed Biafran. And your remedy is deliverance from blind generational idolatry. You need prayer and revival of deliverance. We'll continue to talk. So psychologically, you first of all understand, but all these things are demonic. There are demons behind that need to be overpowered before those generational Iberibe Biafran supporting generational idol worship, before they will be properly delivered, after having given them psychological pills, that is as sensitization for reorientation, they also need to be the proper deliverance from powers of darkness. 9, the last one, according to this lesson, is the 9th set of Biafrans suffering from generational Biafran Iberibenes. They are the Biafrans who blame slave-trading indigenous Biafrans on the foreign buyers of Biafran slaves. The modern-day Biafrans who blame the European slave buyers, the European slave merchants who went to Africa, and most especially to Biafra land to buy slaves. Modern-day Biafrans blaming them for doing such. And they never blamed the Biafran ancestors who sold their own people to the foreigners. And they never reason why is it that the foreigners never sold their own people, and why is it that the foreigners reserved their own people coming to Africa, and most especially Biafra, to buy slaves. And why did the Biafran ancestors of that time sell the Biafrans of their own days? That is a proper stupidity. And the modern day Biafrans blaming it on the foreigners who ventured and was not refused and was highly welcomed as a result of money, as a result of envy and jealousy, that we are among them the Biafran ancestors, and as a result of intimidation, those they believe that should not talk to them when they are wrong, and they see it as opportunity to catch them and sell to the Westerners. And the modern day Biafrans begin to blame the Westerners. Onye ụmụahịa kụrụ egwu si n'ọjị onye iberibe ka eji ara mmiri ọkụ agwọ. N'ọjị onye iberibe n'ọhịa ka eji ara mmiri ọkụ agwọ. So nna aha ọkwa ndị iberibe, nna aha ndị rere ohu, onwekwa ndị iberibe ka ha n'ụwa ahụ. Mụọ nna ọgwọ eziokwu, ụmụ Biafra ọkwa eziokwu ka nna gwa unu. Nna aha ndị sore ndị ohu n'ala Biafra dịkwa iberibe karịa iberibe. Unu nyekwara ha aka, udo nyere onwe unu aka. Unu a na-agba mbọ ịgbachitere ha, ikwu na ihe ha mere dị mma. Onwe ha mere dị mma o, ha sokwadowe anyị n'ọnọdụ anyị n'ugbu a. Unu nyekwara aka gbapụta ha, unu yiri aka, unu dọpụsawa, n'ihi na ekpe enweghị onye ụdọ efe ata nkolo. Nna awụ efe ata nkolo n'ihi we enweghị onye ụdọ. Unugwu mmiri eme ugbu, unugwu mmiri eme Biafra ugbu a. Unugwu mmiri eme Biafra ugbu a, unu bịakwasịrị nna awụ na-eme fọrịwọ mme ndo anyị ọnọdụ nwaanyị n'ugbu a. Ọ gịnị ma ọ ya mee nji wuru onye IPOB? Ọ nchi udo ekpe ndị IPOB n'ihi ekpe enweghị onye ụdọ efe ata nkolo. Ọ nchi udo na unu bịara eme efe ata nkolo ma adọnwa isi unu. Ọ ya mee nna Chineke ji kpọm oku ya chọọ ime ụdọ ekpe ndị Biafra, ya sị mmụọ bịaka efe ata nkolo, mmụọ na-edọtụkwa, mmụọ sọ na-edọtụkwa mmụọ n'ihi ekpe enweghị onye ụdọ efe ata nkolo. Anyị ma hapụ unu na-efe ata nkolo eme ya anyị ifere unu ka awụ gbam ya bịa ọgwụgwọ. Oziọma nke abalị abịala isi njedebe. Anyị agba ndị ebe eru ụzọ ọdụ anyị amalitekwa ndụ mmiri ndụ azụ. Ụbọchị nta ka chọọ na Owere nchi. Udo dịrị unu ụmụ Biafra. So this program has come to an end. So I am to continue with the part 7 perhaps I believe it is over 12 o'clock. So it is now today, it is no longer tomorrow. It is 21 minutes after 12. Here ends this program. And today in the morning, I will go to bed now and sleep perhaps 5 hours or 6 hours while I get up early in the morning praying. The first thing in the morning, I will prepare and complete the seventh one before I will go out, so that I will not be carried away with church activities and other personal engagements. And I don't want to take the perseverance into next week. I must complete it this week. I will sleep like 5 or 6 hours, waking up, then preparing myself, pray, and come back to complete it. May God bless you for giving good attention and reasoning together with me. It is not to hurt anybody, but it is to sensitize all of us so that we begin to reason excellently, because excellence begins from excellent reasoning, and excellent prosperity is a result of excellent reasoning. So we are to be reasoning excellently, avoiding sentiments of all sorts, establishing justice, equity, anytime, anywhere, any day, and without favor. And this is not to be done to destroy anybody, but to build all of us together. May God bless you for listening. I remain your humble servant, Evangelist Collins. Remain blessed, as I have said earlier, until you hear from me once again, and very soon. Thank you.